Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege today to open the first panel at our symposium, the panel which is devoted to the image of the World War II and Holocaust in post-war art. Let me introduce the participants in our discussions. The first speech will be delivered by Anda Rothenberg. She's an art historian and art critic. She was also a curator for many exhibitions in Venice, Istanbul, São Paulo. 7 years she was a director of the Zachęta, a major contemporary art gallery in Warsaw. She has also published numerous books and articles. I will add from myself that I often listen to her comments in Polish radio stations where she talks about art. Thank you very much for it. Then comment will be delivered by Monika Baum-Dungeon. She's a writer, lecturer, and curator. She has worked for the Tate Gallery, the National Gallery, Sotheby's Institute of Art. She was a curator of major international exhibitions entitled After Auschwitz in 1995. Her last book, Art and the Second World War, was published in 2012. My name is Marcin Zaremba. I am a historian at the Warsaw University. And before I ask Anda Rothenberg to take the floor, I will take the liberty of saying a few words. As a historian, I dealt with war and post-war trauma in Poland. I apologize for the cliché, but I must say there is no doubt that the Second World War was in many respects a turning point for European nations in the 20th century. As Kazimierz Wyka, a scholar of Polish literature, put it, I quote, "Modern war is total not so much in the sense of weapons and destructions as in the sociological sense. The war played a role equivalent to the destructive phase of a revolution. It brought trauma, destabilization of social relationships, and impoverishment. This war made fear a feeling not limited only to the soldiers anymore. It spread throughout the whole civilian population, especially in Eastern Europe. Any sense of security that remained there after the Great Depression was destroyed by the Great War. For 6 years, Poles lived in a sense of permanent threat. The end of the war did not stop the tyranny of fear. It just changed into something less concrete, sometimes unspoken, of a source that people could not really identify or articulate. It was another consequence of the war that shaped the Polish post-war consciousness and anxiety disorders. There is no doubt that by 1945, Poles were psychologically shattered, but it's difficult to state exactly to what extent. It was estimated after the war that 60,000 people came out of it psychologically damaged. However, if the tools of modern psychiatry and psychology were available at the time, the number of people diagnosed with war syndrome would have probably been a lot larger. The symptoms of this syndrome were varied. It might include emotional instability, nervous strain, severe depression, and anxiety. For many people, the flow of time did not heal their wounds, nor make the fear disappear. The fear influenced the post-war collective behaviors. It was visible in the form of war, panic. People would frantically buy up stocks of food supplies and warm clothing. This kind of panic first ran through Poland in 1946. Next similar waves of panic included the first Berlin crisis, the Korean War, the shooting down of U-2 in 1960, the erection of the Berlin Wall in 1961, and the Cuban crisis in the following year. The tendency to stock up supplies became characteristic of Poles during the period of the People's Republic. It stems both from the peasant mentality, which considered such behavior important, and from the fear of the starvation and food shortages that was typical for the war period. The reactions to the news and introduction of the martial law in 1981 are a proof not only of the presence of the memory of war, but also of the ways in which the war fear was reproduced and handed down to younger generations. War fear imprinted itself in the memory of Poles. A friend of mine told me that when she heard about the introduction of the martial law, she was 12 at the time, she began to dry slices of bread because her mother told her that it must be done during the war. The memory of war survives until today. Autobiographic interviews and opinion polls conducted by sociologists demonstrated this fact. The most recent polls on the image of war in the memory of the Polish society were conducted in 2009. 33.5% of respondents admitted that their families talk about the times of war. The Czech philosopher Jan Patočka has written, I quote, "But, and this is the most important point, this war has not ended because it passed over into a specific state which was neither war nor peace." Although this quotation refers to the period after the First World War, it provides an equally fitting point on which to close my reflections.